opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome, K-Man, to your Friday edition of Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome. How are you, Mr. Harris?
I am fantastic. Loving the new haircut there,
I
buddy.
was going to say, boy, you see,
Looking sharp.
great minds think alike. I just want you to know that I'm right there with you.
You're right there with me.
I am right there with you, buddy.
Well, happy Friday to you and happy Friday to our listening audience. Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk here on your radio dial 103.1 FM and simulcasting live as usual over YouTube, Instagram, and on Facebook. You've got two options if you're a Facebook user. You can either find us at our own Facebook page, Straight Talk Radio Show, or you can find us also on the ACT Cruise Tourism Facebook page, at least for 5 more days anyway, as we get ever closer to the referendum questions, which will be asked on April 30th. That is Election Day here in the Cayman Islands. And, well, you must be gearing up for the last miles, so to speak.
Mr. Harris?
Yes, sir.
Well, I can tell you it has been fun, but I would be happy to be passing that finish line very soon. 4 days?
Yeah, I'm sure you must be.
4 days to go. But, of course, today I think we have pretty much our final meeting today at the Marriott.
That's right.
6 o'clock.
Indeed. And as a result of that, I see I have to share you with your other obligations by sending you out of here early.
But see, I have to run off on you again, and I really feel bad about that because I don't want to leave you here in the studio, but it seems like God has worked it out for us, right?
God has worked it out for us. I think we'll have the company of a fantastic guest, Miss Romelio. Welcome, who originally was slated for half an hour, but has since been extended to an hour. She will join us at 5:30 instead of 5 o'clock, and she will be with us all the way until the end. So
everybody wins.
Everybody wins, indeed. But you'll still be missed, buddy, because, there's just simply no replacing you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. But yes, as Ellio did point out, the final public meeting of the Association for Cruise Tourism takes place tonight at the Grand Cayman Marriott. A meet and greet begins at 6 o'clock. And I'm told the substantive meeting, will begin promptly on time at 7 o'clock. It'll be the only event in Cayman history that starts right at the stroke of 7 o'clock.
Well, I don't know. Anywhere, there's a 6:30 marker in there, too. Of course, I'm sure that this has something to do with the reason why I have to run off at 6. But, yeah, there's a 6:30 mark in there, too.
Okay, all right. So maybe it'll start even earlier. Not only will it start on time, but it'll start earlier. Oh, my God, it got snow in Cayman.
Although I must tell you, I like the 7 idea, right?
Yeah, well, I just like the whole idea of, a meeting in Cayman starting on time. And this is no reflection on ACT. It's just Cayman time seems to be prevalent in no matter what you do, whether it be a baby shower, a wedding, a public meeting, you name it.
Yeah. Nothing starts on time?
Nothing. And certainly, I think of the Parliament meetings that we normally catch live on YouTube. Yeah, the meeting will commence at 10 o'clock. Yeah, right.
Like 10:45.
Never in the history of Parliament
11, just starting to come in.
Never begun at 10 o'clock. Though I'm told...
And you have experience on this, Mr. Harris.
I do have.
This is not something you just heard somewhere.
This is not something they told me. I heard it. I know it. You know it. I think, though, when we talk to some of the... I don't want to call them the older guard, but the guys who came before, if you will, back in the early days, whether we call it 70s and 80s, 10 o'clock means 10 o'clock, and they used to start promptly on time, and, there were sticklers for those sort of things, but...
If you're on time, you're late.
That's right. That's right.
Should be early.
Exactly. So something fell away somewhere along the lines. Like I said, Cayman time took over, and it's not just Parliament. It's not just ACT. It's everything. So the fact that your meeting will start promptly at 7, but may even start earlier. A half an hour
Super
earlier.
impressive, right?
Very impressive.
Very,
very impressive. So,
but I'd like to say our program starts right on time.
Our program starts right. You know what?
I'm onto something.
You are onto something. Maybe we're setting a trend here.
Say breaking the old 3-4-5. No, scratch that. We're on time.
That's a very good observation, and not just today, but for now almost 2.5 months. Almost.
So then it's not surprising that I would skirt out of here at 6 to make sure we start 6:30 prompto.
That's right. Indeed. But again, let's not make a habit of it.
Yeah. I know. Hopefully it's the last time I got to run off and leave you, buddy.
No, man, I understand. Well, again, it's really an opportunity, as we said yesterday. If you are still on the fence on the cruise berthing question, one of 3 questions that will be asked at the referendum on election day, or if your position right now is a no, listen, we encourage you to come out to the meeting, ask the questions. You've got all of the, the thought leaders. You've got, in today's case, as we heard yesterday, we have the CEO of St. Martin Port in town just for this meeting. He's going to share firsthand experiences that will hopefully allay any fears that may be in the public domain. I saw, we talked about the port in St. Martin, which has 2 piers accommodating, I think, 6 berths, they said, 6 ships on those 2 piers. Their most popular beach, Grand Bay Beach, is less than a mile away, and it is still crystal clear waters, white sandy beaches, no impact whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think I saw on the ACT page today a post from Turks and Caicos showing, again, another beach within a rock's throw of the pier, and it looked crystal clear, So, again, don't believe everything you hear on the argument that what is at risk on the environment. There is such a thing as modern construction technology. I discovered just in the last 2 months that there is such a thing as concrete made specifically for the marine environment.
This is correct.
So again, you've got, eco-friendly, construction materials that, as has been said, will add to the marine ecosystem, not take away from it. So if you're concerned about the environment, legitimately so. If you're concerned about the location, legitimately so. If you're concerned about the cost, legitimately so. But all 3 of those things have zero bearing on the question. And again, I just have to try to bang this message home.
Oh, tell me about it.
The question simply asks, do you think we should develop cruise berthing infrastructure? If it is a yes, then the government of the day, whoever that will be, will have the responsibility to come back to you, the public, with the answers to the legitimate questions. Let me say it again, the legitimate questions that are being asked. And then in there, we can then debate whether we like it or not. But it has nothing to do with the question at hand. And whilst the list of objectors I see in the media today, you've got the National Trust joining chorus in objection to the cruise piers. And again, it starts off on the entirely wrong premise. It says a costly permanent cruise berthing facility has the potential to cause enormous environmental damage when there are other options to help Caymanians who are still dependent on the cruise sector to transition and adapt. There's a lot of assumptions in that single line statement. The first and foremost, most glaring, is this concept that persons operating in the cruise tourism space can simply transition over to, have their posts serving these stayover audiences.
Yeah.
And arguably they do already, but obviously one is more lucrative than the other, and obviously they need to supplement that revenue. So just imagine somebody coming to you and saying, listen, you're not getting fired, but we're cutting your wages in half. But I'm sure you'll survive. Get over it. It is just simply implausible to the rational mind. And again, we talk about what many of the objectors are saying are costs. No one's talked costs yet. No one's talked, building methodology yet. No one's even talked location yet. All of these things, all of these legitimate questions, I'll say it again, they are legitimate.
Future legitimate question.
But they have no bearing on the question as it stands at referendum day. And I just really hope the country, comes out of the shadow. Those who are perhaps on the fence or no aren't being guided by inaccurate information.
Yeah, you don't hear that. Mr. Harris, I remember reading one of the things on the South Sound chat, and there was a lady, like I said on there, a self-proclaimed socialist. And she says, no matter what they tell me about cruise tourism, it won't get my support. But I do support marijuana and gambling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all right, let's carry the same logic. You can't support gambling because you don't know how much it's going to cost.
Quite right.
I don't know how much this is going to cost. And where are you going to put the machines? Where's all these questions? And then what's the same thing about marijuana? Yeah, I need to know exactly how much I'm going to be able to keep. And to your point about depenalization, am I going to be able to grow it in my backyard? There's too many questions to be answered. It's just a load of nonsense. And when I hear things like that coming from the National Trust, I'm not surprised. I did mention again that you had persons like Ms. Melanie Carmichael who used to hit up the trust. I want people to know that this is, I don't think it's not a grand conspiracy, but they're all networking. They're all like family and friends. Huddling together. And it's amazing that the government actually helps to fund these institutions, of course. But let me just say, when you hear that statement, they're also now in that particular statement attempting to direct the government. Like here, there's more important issues. And they've actually determined, I think, to some extent, what are more important issues.
Right.
But either way, lots of misinformation. And to your point, and to use your words, I want to encourage the public to understand that a yes means we can have a discussion, we can move forward with EIAs and plans and drawings, and you can always put the brakes on. But a no at the end of the day means no discussion, and it ends. And then in terms of cruise tourism, it will die a slow, painful death. So again, without harping the point, I want to encourage you to vote yes.
Absolutely. And just another observation, because when this conversation is over, and whether it's a yes or no, obviously to be determined if it continues. But there are other conversations taking place on the fringes, and one of those big conversations, also a fear amongst many in the Cayman community, is the fear of overdevelopment. And many people believe that, every square inch of available land is being replaced with concrete and steel. As again, that same Jimmy Buffett song says, you tore down paradise and you put up a parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
That is literally happening before our eyes. We take a look again from the media, and in particular the minutes from the Central Planning Authority. We see that the Planning Authority has approved the Westin's Hotel delayed plans to add a new 10-story, 234-bedroom tower and an 18,410 square foot conference facility to the existing site, so right next door to it, after a final hurdle relating to the off-site parking was resolved. So not only do you have land next to an existing hotel that is only...
Is this?
This is the Westin
Okay.
Beach Resort there on 7 Mile Beach.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a hotel now going to expand its footprint on more land, so more development on the beach side. So your view, your breeze, all of that is disappearing slowly but surely along 7 Mile coastline. Ironically, no mention of setbacks here, but they have been discussing it. So on the one hand, the Central Planning Authority sort of going against its own recommendations, but it's just a Friday. There's nothing unusual about that at all. This is Cayman after all. But then to add to it, if that construction side by side wasn't enough, now it seems the Westin may be setting a trend for future hotel developments to consider.
Well, of course,
and
going to go up.
that is, of course, the whole discussion of off-site parking.
Oh.
According to planning regulations, it requires that at least 50% of the particular property's parking be located no further than 500 feet away from the primary respective building. However, plans by the Westin as part of its $153 million expansion project requires 97% of parking to be more than that maximum distance allowed. If you were familiar with 7 Mile Beach and the location of the Westin Hotel, think across the street. You've got Legends behind it. You've got a set of apartments. Behind that, you've got, I think it's Sunshine Suites. And just behind that is an open lot that is proposed for the site of what Westin is calling their off-site parking. So, and then what that will mean is they will then shuttle guests from that parking to the hotel sitting on the beach side. This is another indication that we're going to see even more development against the backdrop of what could potentially be the absence of cruise tourism. And that is going to run contrary to the very same environmentalists and others who are very concerned that we are literally paving paradise to put down a parking lot. So there is a give and there is a take. Now, what is also, I think, important to remember is that whilst we in the Cayman Islands have not in our 40, 50-year tourism history been able to break through the 500,000 number in stay-over visitors, someone in government seems to think that in the next 10 years, by 2035, we will break through to 1 million stay-over visitors. And the only way that's going to happen, and we see the works already in place, we see the runway, airport expansion being discussed. That means expanding the runway, making it longer, pushing it into the North Sound. Again, no environmentalists raising the alarm. The building of its own dock, presumably for emergency services personnel, fire in particular. Nobody complaining about that. The North Sound, I remind you, is, what do they call it? The preschool, the estuary where a lot of our reef fish are born and, mature before they swim off into the open seas. Nobody's talking about that, but that expansion is going to happen. And then in the absence of cruise berthing, we have to create more room stock if you want to, double your stay-over percentage. And where do you think that's going to happen? It's either going to go up or it's going to go out. And in the Westin's case, it's both. They're going to expand horizontally and they're going to go up vertically from 5 stories to 10 stories. And they're not going to be the only ones.
Oh, no. No, I'm pretty sure other persons would be taking advantage of it as well.
Yeah. So, I think when we look at our tourism offerings against the concerns of the limited infrastructure, the limited land space, the total absence of any sort of development plan, we have to strike a balance. And obviously, you want to have both cruise and stay over operating in the same space, then giving you some flexibility. I'm all for pedestrianizing Central Georgetown. It's been a point of discussion for some time. But again, it requires planning. Where are those cars going to go? Will they create further bottlenecks elsewhere? These are the discussions that need to take place. And again, in the absence of cruise berthing, they're going to take place rather speedily, and it's not going to please everybody. So the landscape is going to change dramatically. Either way you look at it.
It's changing now, right?
And your question is really, what's worse, I guess, is the question at hand. So I just want, to throw these things out there because it doesn't seem to me that when we make decisions on one subject, and again, cruise tourism has been the prominent discussion, but nobody's thinking about what happens if there is no cruise tourism and what are the consequences if we do shift our focus to stay over tourism and what that will bring, what challenges will come from that.
Yeah, and my last comment on that's going to be, again, I encourage persons to look at exactly who are making these pronouncements against the cruise, National Trust, check it out. It's a bit like the NCC group that was removed by the government that wants to take the government to court because they should be there arguably for life. And then we also had something similar, I think, what was it coming, CMMI or something? It's the same thing. Please check it out. Austin, I wanted to say.
Marine Institute.
Right, that one. One of my pet peeves, as you know, my friend, is this trash. And I did see a video that was circulating on our guest that's supposed to come in here at 5:30, wherein she was apparently, I don't want to say arresting, but definitely filming someone that had thrown some trash on the road.
Yes.
Kudos to her because, and again, bear in mind that this individual was driving a car and just throws the trash out on the side of the road. And they managed to get all this on film, right?
Yes.
But this is the sort of nonsense that I'm talking about. And I told you about someone that was doing something similar in my neighborhood. You called the police. I'm not allowed to come in. I'm not allowed to witness what's being said.
No.
This is an in-camera discussion, Mrs. Allman.
Yeah.
You know, and nothing happens.
No.
There's no fine. There's no take him downtown. There's nothing, right?
Yeah.
Nothing happening. And this is the kind of nonsense that's taking place all the time. How do you solve this problem? I did chat with someone and they said, well, Ellio, it's not a ticketable offense. So you have to take them downtown and write them up. And that might be the reasons why these police aren't doing something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe.
Don't know.
And all I'm simply saying is if you at least make this based on that little limited piece of information, maybe if we made this a ticketable offense, that we didn't have to inconvenience the paid public servant to sit down and write things up,
Mm-hmm.
might be able to be resolved. Because have you noticed that they don't have a problem pulling you over giving you tickets
No.
for your car, right?
No.
So I think I just want to throw it out that if that is indeed correct, I would encourage the government to say, listen, let's consider making litter a ticketable offense. And that way we can have police officers doing just as vigilant and thorough a job in terms of trash throwing as it now happens in terms of your vehicles.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
No, just a suggestion. And you know what? If I'm totally honest, that whole idea of making trash a ticketable offense, reducing the fines from the, age-old set limit of $500 to maybe a 25, a 50, maybe even 100, depending on, the extent of the littering. That was a notion that was proposed under the government, which I was a part of. They called them trash wardens.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a great idea. But like a lot of things, they just simply never left, the page. They just sat there on the whole idea list. And I always thought that was low-hanging fruit.
Right.
But if I am going to be critical of, any administration, I'll look at even my own. We didn't dot the I's and cross the T's on everything. But this is an example, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it be our guest at 5:30, Romelia, welcome, photo and videoing this practice, this daily practice in her own constituency of Georgetown North, whether it happened on your property. And again, while you didn't video it, I think your experience matched very closely, if not identical, to Ms. Romelia's experience. We could have had a ticketable, again, $25, $50, because I believe until you hit people in their wallet, in their pocket, they're not going to stop.
And the $500, right, can be like, that can be a max. So, the officer's discretion, it can be anywhere between $0 or $1 and $500.
Yes.
Depending on how flagrant is this? One Coke can versus I just threw a garbage bag of trash out there and see what happens, right?
Yes.
So, it can vary. And one of the things we talked about in 2018 as well is like, hey, somebody entertained the idea. If you catch it on video, you might be able to even partake in the fine.
Right.
So Austin gets it, or in this case, Miss Welcome, gets it on video. Well, you get a $500 fine. Look at all the trash you get, and she gets some of the money. That would encourage some immediate trash police would be appearing all over the island.
Yes, you get
people sitting in the bushes with a camera on their phone,
based
of course.
on performance. I like that.
Yeah.
But it is we joke, but again, it is another example of one of the countless laws that exist in this country that go ignored every single day. And this is this particular subject is a black eye on the police, because in Ms. Welcome's case, again, she had a camera.
She was lucky to catch it there.
She caught it. She captured it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no denying it, no walking away from it, no saying, no, that's not what happened, whilst you saw the video, but you didn't hear the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Nonsense. I didn't see anybody get in a car. I didn't see you reach once for your little notebook. I didn't see you give a ticket.
Right.
So tell me again, what exactly did you do?
Well, I wonder what happened in that case. That's a question I'm going to have to ask her. Exactly what happened. Did the police show up? Did someone get fined? And the amazing thing is, let's whisper it, the guy actually admits he was throwing trash before. It's like, oh my God, this is terrible.
There was a confession.
Yes, I've done this.
He couldn't go to jail.
I've done this before several times.
That's right.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
right. So we look forward to having that discussion. And again, whilst we may touch on the question of trash and the concerns at the Georgetown North constituency, just to obviously set the record straight, our guest will be planning to pick up an even more ticklish subject, and that is one of immigration reform, which many argue is another critical bit of legislative or legal reform that will determine the future of many Caymanians for a lot of reasons. I won't get ahead of myself until the guest arrives, but I promise you it's going to be a conversation that you don't want to miss.
You have a few thoughts of your own.
Well, I have a few thoughts of my own, but more importantly, I know our guest has several thoughts of her own. And we look forward to hearing them.
No, absolutely.
And if she doesn't have the right thoughts, then I'll push her along the line. But what about potentially this, you know? But I have no doubt, Ms. Romelia, as she has proven once before on this program, she is very well spoken. She certainly understands the situation as it exists. And we're going to get a bit more, as what we say, straight talk here on the show today. So we encourage you to tune in and be a part of that. It is 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. And, well, we do have to go off to a break in a few short minutes. But the phone lines are open on this Friday. 745-2626 is the number, or you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. Share your thoughts on the days remaining before the general elections. Keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk still to come right here on your favorite Bobo 103.1 FM.
Bobo. The BBC is the world's most trusted news source. And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to top shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman, on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
Welcome to our newsroom here in central London. We place ourselves here at a little desk right in the thick of things.
OS from the BBC.
We can catch the very latest news from our colleagues, not just in this enormous room, but also from our colleagues around the world.
I'm in the room where they're treating children.
This is a combat zone.
The situation after the typhoon is very complicated.
It was a very tense situation.
OS from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News.
BBC News.
World news from the BBC. Violent clashes.
Thick black smoke.
A tremendous legal victory.
Crucial elections.
Destructive winds.
A search and recovery operation.
A race against time.
An imminent threat.
Flying a drone over a rival team's training session.
Whatever is happening, wherever it's happening, catch up with the latest news bulletins from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest-standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has conceded that his country does not have enough weapons to recapture Crimea from Russia. He was speaking after an interview with Donald Trump was published, in which the US president said Crimea stays with Russia.
Today, I agree with President Trump that Ukraine does not have enough weapons in order to return control over Crimean Peninsula with weapons. But we, the world, have sanction opportunities and other economic pressure, diplomatic pressure to discuss this, and territorial issues, but only after complete and unconditional ceasefire.
The Kremlin says talks in Moscow on Friday with Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, had been constructive. The head of the World Health Organization has said that Israel's blockade of aid to Gaza must end. The World Food Programme has said its remaining food stocks were now all depleted. There are reports of intense fighting on the ground in Gaza as Israel continues its military offensive. Sebastian Usher is in Jerusalem.
The Israeli military has issued a new evacuation warning for Palestinians in the Zaytun district of Gaza City ahead of Israeli strikes in response to what the IDF says are attacks by what it calls terror groups in the area against Israeli forces. Israel is also continuing to impose a blockade on aid supplies into Gaza, which the World Food Programme says has brought the territory to a new breaking point. The head of UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Philippe Lazzarini, has condemned the blockade as man-made starvation.
A judge in the U.S. state of Wisconsin has appeared in court, charged with helping an undocumented migrant to evade arrest. The FBI accuses Hannah Duggan of intentionally misleading its agents attempting to detain a Mexican man. The Department of Homeland Security said the judge had tried to shield a violent criminal. The man accused of shooting dead a health insurance executive in New York last year has pleaded not guilty to federal murder charges. Luigi Mangione was appearing in a Manhattan court. Prosecutors say he killed the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, to spark resistance to the health insurance industry. Neda Tawfiq was at the courthouse.
Wearing a tan prison jumpsuit, Luigi Mangione was told to stand. When asked how he pleaded to the charges of stalking, murder, and a firearms offense, he leaned into the microphone and said not guilty. His defense lawyers told the court that given he faces the death penalty, they now want his federal trial to take place before his state case. At the same time, though, they are fighting to prevent the government from seeking capital punishment, arguing that Attorney General Pam Bondi's past statements and press releases and on social media indelibly prejudice the process.
World News from the BBC. The foreign ministers of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed an agreement in Washington to respect each other's sovereignty and come up with a draft peace deal within a week. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been displaced as Rwandan-backed M23 rebels seize territory in eastern Congo. Nigeria's anti-corruption agency says a court has ordered the seizure of more than 70 properties in Lagos linked to Chinese nationals suspected of internet fraud and money laundering. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission said they were members of a syndicate involved in cryptocurrency investment and romance fraud. Brazil's former president, Fernando Collor de Mello, has been arrested and taken to prison to begin serving a nearly 9-year sentence for corruption and money laundering. He's one of 4 Brazilian former presidents since the end of military rule in the 1980s to have been convicted, jailed or impeached. Here's Leonardo Rocha.
Collor de Mello was convicted of taking bribes to secure contracts between a construction company and a former subsidiary of the Brazilian state oil company Petrobras. The decision to arrest him came from a Supreme Court judge and is expected to be ratified by the other justices next week. Collor de Mello was Brazil's first president after democracy was restored in the late 1980s. He was forced to resign in 1992, halfway through his term, following corruption allegations, but eventually returned to politics as senator for his home state of Alagoas.
The Vatican says around 250,000 people came to pay their respects to Pope Francis during the 3 days he was lying in state at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Security has been strengthened in Rome for the arrival of more than 100 foreign delegations. The Pope's funeral will be held in St. Peter's Square on Saturday morning. BBC News.
Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcasting live over YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. On Facebook, you can find us both at our own page, which is Straight Talk Radio Show, or the ACT Cruise Tourism page, depending on which one you're a member of. But always encouraging you to like and follow Straight Talk Radio Show on either Facebook or Instagram. And I think we were chatting, well, I was chatting in your absence. I was looking at the numbers. Speaking of followers and likes, I think we're growing by
leaps and bounds.
Leaps and bounds, double digits.
That's right.
I don't have the numbers directly in front of me.
Oh, well, definitely over 500 I saw on Facebook now.
Yeah, and again,
not too bad for a 2-month-old.
Not too bad for 2 months old, and all of that has to do with you, the listening audience. Obviously, making a choice in terms of radio programs, choosing to tune us in on the weekday drive time, 4:30 to 6:30 every week. We do appreciate it. Obviously, we want to see that listener base grow. We want to obviously see the number of calls and contributors to the program also grow with it. But more importantly, that you got your ears on is our number one priority. We just want to say thank you for being faithful. We always will remember the original day ones, and we are still in our infancy as a talk show program, but plans to grow and plans to add additional services as we get there, but baby steps, one day at a time. I want to give you the whole bag of tricks, but, I got it. My colleague always tells me, patience, grasshopper, patience. So 745-226-26 is the number. We got about a half an hour left.
No one's going to call you, Austin. I forgot that this is Friday.
It is Friday, and it's raining.
It's raining.
Yeah.
People are either under the covers or having a drink, or both.
Or both. Or sitting on the settee with their popcorn and
something
their
like
favorite beverage.
And they're just like, guys.
Hello to that couple, by the way, who will remain nameless, but hey to you. Thank you for tuning in. We got nothing but love for you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
We do.
So there's like, get your guests in there and do your own thing, guys.
That's right. We forgot to share our usual good news, though I think we talked about that good news and reminding folks of today's, and I'm going to do it again, today's final public meeting hosted by the Association for Cruise Tourism ahead of the general election and referendum question day of April 30th. The ACT Cruise Tourism Association was hosting their final meeting tonight at the Grand Cayman Marriott Hotel. Meet and greet begins at 6 o'clock. And depending on who you ask, the meeting will either start promptly on time at 7 o'clock or even more miraculously a half hour early. But again, that remains to be seen.
You are cruising.
I am cruising, I know. But definitely want to encourage members of the public, in particular,
that smirk,
persons who are either on the fence or may still be thinking if the referendum was tomorrow, you'd vote no. I encourage those persons to come out. If you are interested in facts rather than rumors or fears, if you are interested to get information, if you want your opportunity to be heard, all the more reason why you need to come out to the meeting tonight at the Grand Cayman Marriott. In addition to, obviously, the distinguished guests, persons who have firsthand experience in cruise port infrastructure development and certainly have seen the economic benefits that follow from it. They will be on hand, but so too will many of our own people who are obviously, deriving a living from it. So come out and be a part of the conversation, learn, ask your questions, and hopefully you'll do the right thing on April 30th. But that meeting kicks off at 6 o'clock today at the Grand Cayman Marriott Hotel. In the good news category, though, I see, and I'm glad to see that this event, which has become a traditional mainstay in the Cayman Islands, hosted by what are you laughing at? The Cayman Ministers Association.
I had a thought, right?
You had a thought?
Yeah,
can we share that thought on public radio?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, then.
So,
it's a G-rated thought, then.
Yeah, it's G-rated. So, it's PG.
PG, okay.
You've always been talking about, you've been kind of giving sort of your take, well-researched, et cetera, on the cannabis issue.
Yes, sir.
And so as I looked at you there, I kind of laughed and said, we should have come in with those little Rasta tab. What the hair coming in our face?
There's still time. There's Monday and Tuesday.
That's what I'm saying. We still have time for this,
idea. I think Monday, if I can find the
big rubber blunt
dreadlocks, boy. Mr. Notch, if you got your ears on, that's your mission over the weekend.
2 Tams.
We need to find 2 Tams with the dreadlocks attached to it.
And a rubber blunt.
That's right. You know, what was it that Peter Tosh says? Legalize it and I'll advertise it. Well, we're looking to decriminalize it and we're going to advertise that here on Straight Talk.
Legalize your...
Yeah, quite right. But, you know, just oddly enough, there's an article in today's Compass suggesting that whilst the cruise birthing conversation has dominated the headlines and the certainly talk show formats and even the TV formats, you know, for the last 2 months leading up to the referendum, they argue that questions like national lottery and cannabis really haven't hit mainstream. And I just have to say, you know, clearly, I haven't been listening to Straight Talk.
Well, maybe they listen, but I guess they're just wondering why there's not much more echo. But I am surprised with that, too. I mean, because I remember driving, and this was quite a while before election time was coming around, and there were some kids out by the traffic light with their backs to Royal Watler holding up some signs. Like it was, I can't remember exactly what the sign said, but, you know, it was something like, you know, support marijuana, honk your horn, one of those.
Right.
So where is that?
Apparently.
Where are all these pot smokers? I mean,
I don't know.
This is like one of those things like, you know, like porn. Like it's $1 billion industry, but nobody watches it.
Maybe it's one of those, again, another polarizing subject like cruise birthing, but even more so.
Maybe they're just canvassing, man. Knocking on doors, you know?
You know, but to your point, you can't escape the irony because prior to the question being slated to be asked in a referendum, there used to be folks that would call up on the program just hours firsthand that they would tell you that they support marijuana. They are smoking marijuana right now as they call. They were free to say it.
Right.
You know, as if to assume that nobody, particularly the cops, aren't listening.
Right.
I was like, dude, shh, you know.
They got your number.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know.
Guys,
discretion.
We need that number.
I'm with you, but, you know, I don't want to see you get yourself in trouble either. But, yes, before the question found its way to the table, more people were talking about the need for it. And since the question got put on the table, it's like everyone clammed up.
Right, there you go.
I don't know what to say. And, again, for our part, all I can say is we hosted a conversation on it. But I was surprised at the lack of feedback from the listening audience on either side because obviously we had a guest that took on all three questions and they had a bit of a different view than we do. But, you know, again, to prove the point that just because we have an opinion on a subject doesn't mean we're unwilling to hear the other side.
Well, after the sun sets on the 30th, Mr. Harris, they'll be coming back out of the woodworks again. Hey, wild mother.
What happened to the question? Might be supposed to vote yes for that, right? I said, yeah, that's like I came on you. Late again. You missed it.
They one of those change hung moves. Good thing we didn't step in that, Yeah, don't worry about it.
That might be one for the naysayers, though, that say, well, you know, this stuff is bad for your memory, and perhaps that might be proven to be the point. Dude forgot all about it.
It's smoking, reading old newspapers. It didn't show up yet. Hey, couldn't even step in that. Oh, Lord help us.
Oh, Lord. So anyway, good news. I wanted to talk about this, and we're probably going to burn in hell for this because we just left the cannabis conversation and to go to church. The Cayman Ministers Association is inviting all churches, ministries, and the wider Christian community to participate in the election prayer gathering scheduled for this Sunday, the 27th of April, from 6 p.m. to 6:45 p.m. Simultaneous gatherings will take place at the following locations: East End United Church, the Frankstown Church of God, the Boddentown Church of God, the Walkers Road Church of God Chapel, and the West Bay Assembly of God, located at 100 Finch Drive. This collective time of prayer is being held ahead of the national election on Wednesday, April 30th, to seek God's guidance and blessing for these, our beloved Cayman Islands. Ministries across the Cayman Islands are encouraged to join in this unified moment of intercession. And I certainly won't be one to make light of prayer. I believe in prayer. I tell people all the time, every hurricane season, we're not lucky. We're blessed. And the reason we're blessed is because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of prayer warriors on their knees from June the 1st, praying for protection for these islands. And I just want to say thank you if you're one of those prayer warriors. We appreciate it. And clearly, the Almighty has had his hand on these, our beloved Cayman Islands, and it is our prayer that he will continue to do so. And no greater of a time that we need his guidance than as we head into another general election, praying for a good turnout, praying for a safe turnout, but above all, praying that, the right government, in fact, wins or is elected and can lead us to the next generation. Listen, can you hold the fort 5 minutes? Our guest has arrived, and I want to go get her, or you want to go get her?
You're at the knobs. I'll go get her.
All right, you go get her. Fair enough. I'll just let her know that you're coming down, and again, she starts at 5:30. Hang on a second. Someone is on the way. Yes. All right, great. 745-2626 is the number, or you can reach out to us on our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. Again, reminding you, coming up in, give or take 15 minutes, we will begin our primetime discussion. Again, another candidate interview here on Straight Talk, this time hosting Miss Romelia Welcome, independent candidate for the constituency of Georgetown North, making her second appearance here on Straight Talk.
I was super quick, wasn't I?
You were. Wow, that was really quick, given the fact that you had stairs to contend with going down and coming up. Hey. I'm glad I sent you. I didn't finish the thought.
You see that? Pays to be fit,
It pays to be fit. Absolutely. What are you saying?
I should have said that with more of a smirk. If I sent you, I would have been one of those crick.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work.
Wasn't going to work?
My knees don't cooperate.
You should have saw me running down the stairs and then running back up the stairs. You know what? I think we should have a show on that, too, by the way, now that we're talking about the...
running up and down stairs?
No, the Bible thing.
I was going to say, because I wasn't going to make that running up and down stairs there.
No, like all these people that don't like to hear the Bible talk.
Yeah.
But yet every day they're kind of living by something on it, Yeah. Like, I don't believe in that Bible talk, but I do believe every 7 days I should get off work.
Yeah, no, indeed.
I should get a rest at least once a week.
At least once a week.
I wonder where that came from.
The Bible.
Yeah.
Yep, indeed.
Like I should go through a list of that. That should be pretty interesting.
Absolutely.
There's tons of them.
Speaking of cannabis, that's in the Bible as well. Just saying. Found on the grave of King Solomon. Look it up. Old Testament.
All I can say,
it grows like that.
All I can say is, I think God said you're supposed to eat it, just not smoke it. Yeah.
Well, eat it, boil it, make rope out of it, Listen, we talk about the hallucinogenic side of cannabis, and obviously that's the part that makes it obviously an illegal substance. But we have barely even scraped the surface on the potential for medical marijuana.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
Think of this in very real terms. I mean, I have a friend who, thank God, he's cancer-free today, but I remember the day he was, it was announced to him that he had cancer, and, the diagnosis wasn't good. I'll tell you honestly, they told him he had 6 months to live. And then of course, we all started thinking, as, you do, what has medical science really cured in the last 50 or 100 years? Nothing. It has helped you to manage pain.
Well, that's what they want.
You to live with it longer, but it hasn't cured anything. And, of course, cancer, the major killer throughout the ages, still remains without a cure. Now, modern medical science told my friend, this is not what I heard, this is what I know, he had 6 months to live. Obviously, he wasn't looking forward to, the rounds of chemo. So he started researching, and he found CBD oil, which is the CBD chemical component next to the THC component that is used in medical marijuana treatments. And within that same 6 month window of taking a teaspoon of the oil, which I assume tastes like either olive oil or any other type of oil, but he put that oil in his cornflakes, of all things, or his oatmeal every single day and drank it with his tea. But in 6 months, not only was that cancer found to be in remission, but a year later, he's cancer-free. Praise God.
Yeah,
so there is potential that we haven't even begun to scrape the surface on.
I'm glad you raised that issue because I did get a call, I don't know, well, yesterday, day before, something like that, from one of our listeners. Again, they were expressing the concerns specifically on the wording of this particular question on the referendum.
Yes.
Because they were saying, for example, if, you know, they don't know if it's encapsulating all these things or if it's just really narrowed in a certain sense. So the argument was something to the effect like, if it was medical marijuana issue, then clearly they would support it.
Yeah.
If it's just a simple case of making it that it's, you know, decriminalizing it and making it easier, that it might end up just becoming more of a habit for everyone, then they don't support it.
Right.
But I definitely want to say, you know, in retrospect, that would definitely have been a question I would love to have seen. You know, is do people support marijuana from a medicinal standpoint? I think you get an overwhelming yes, right?
I think so as well.
And without a doubt, I think the bushes, the nature, it holds a lot of cures inside of there, you know? And I can tell you, like, even look at a neem leaf. One time I had a really bad back pain.
Yeah.
Took a neem leaf, it's like right away, that pain went away. 20 minutes, gone.
Yeah.
So definitely it's anti-inflammatory. You know, so there's a lot of different things out there. And as we talked about on numerous occasions, back in the day, the old people used to give you a little bit of marijuana tea.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to the law back those days, but
If
anyway.
you didn't have an appetite, if you struggle with insomnia, these are all the otherwise wellness benefits of that same product that others, again, light on fire and roll in paper.
And I've seen where, again, it's been beneficial to persons with seizures and so on.
Yes.
So it would have been good to see a question like that on the referendum.
It would have been good, but you know what?
Probably
Again, I'm going to bang my drum about, and a lot of people, you know, may not like this, but, you know, there's that liberation feeling of not, you know,
not running for office,
not looking for your vote, really don't need any new friends. But these are questions that we didn't have to take to referendum. Certainly the question, as we are discussing, you know, do you support the decriminalization of the consumption and possession of small amounts of cannabis? This is something that all it took was some courageous minister, or even backbencher for that matter, or even member of the opposition, because there are opportunities for private members' motions that can come from anyone in the House, to just simply propose, let's have a discussion on it. And when you consider that the House was unanimous in support of putting this question on the referendum list of questions, then one has to be curious as to just how much more supportive might they have been had this been a bill put on the table for discussion. And again, whether it be the U.S., the continent of Europe, or you want to stay in the Caribbean region and look to Jamaica, as we talked about. 2015, Jamaica engaged in the same process that apparently we are unsure of and have to ask the populace before we take a chance. Again, I think that's what Parliament is for. You know, you put an idea on the table. Just because it's on the table doesn't mean it passes. But the leaders we elect then debate it. And of course, the listening audience, those who tune in who care enough, will obviously comment on it in the various media outlets that are available. So public discussion and consultation could have happened at the same time. But we should have talked about this from Parliament. We didn't have to take it to the people. And again, I say you cannot run a country by referendum because most of the time, the voters don't know what they want. I'm just going to say it as it is. And again, I look at Brexit in the UK as a fine example. Brexit was also polarizing, but if you ask Brits today whether they would, you know, had a chance to do it all over again, they would probably say no, we would take a different position.
Steve Jobs would probably be agreeing with you. I think he's known to have made a statement, something to the effect that the public doesn't know what they want until you give it to them.
No, exactly. And when they get it, they go, wait a minute, this is not what I had in mind.
But this is great.
Yeah.
Look at this cell phone. I didn't even think of that.
That's right. So again, I just think that, you know, a lot of these questions, but certainly the whole issue of decriminalization could have taken the form of a substantive motion in Parliament. It could have been debated, and we certainly would have been better served for it, and maybe possibly even further ahead on the matter. As it stands right now, like the cruise question, the government, who could not make a decision, is asking the public for them to make a decision for them. And then when that comes back, will the next administration list these questions as a priority to move forward, or will they kick the can down further down the road? So there's no guarantee either way. But however we got here, though not as ideal, in my opinion, as it could be, I'm glad we're here.
We're here.
So I'll take the win in whatever form it comes in.
Yeah, and I mean, I heard that, again, you both know you probably had 2 or 3 different governments in one particular term.
Yep.
So we're not necessarily sure. But I understood that initially it was at least 2 questions that were there on the referendum. Nothing ever really happened.
Nope.
And one thing I am happy about is that we did, at the end of the day, still have at least a little bit of a unity that occurred to say, let's give the people a voice. It was something that I think had to happen considering how things had went about, because if you didn't, by pulling it back now, it would have seemed as if nobody had confidence and it had somehow failed.
Yeah.
So either way, we're here and we're hoping for the best in this particular case, for sure. A vote for yes on cruise tourism. I love that song.
Indeed. And you know what? I got to give credit where credit is due. And we big him up a lot on this program. But, again, the evidence bears us out. Whilst the House did almost 2 years prior to 2025 vote unanimously that these questions should feature as a referendum question on Election Day, if it wasn't for the pushing, the urging of one MP in the form of the Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, we wouldn't even have these questions.
It wouldn't have happened.
So kudos to you, Mr. Bryan, if you got your ears on, because, again, you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts, and we tend to forget who did what, when, and where, but when we're around, we'll do our best to make sure people are reminded. But these are the facts, and I'm grateful that we are here. As I said before, not ideal, but a win is a win. We'll take it.
We'll take it.
And we'll see, obviously, if we can trust the public to do the right thing. We have to pause, take a short commercial break, but when we come back, Mr. Ellio, welcome, joins us here on Straight Talk on Bobo FM.
More Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio coming up. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Bobo 103.1.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice-cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Stingray Media encourages you to keep safe on our roads. Cayman Islands traffic law states that any child traveling in a vehicle must wear a seatbelt, and if under 14 years, must sit in the rear of the vehicle. Car seats and boosters will provide additional protection for infants. Keep our children safe and secure in vehicles. Supported by ICWI, Cayman Islands Insurance Association, CG Britke, and National Road Safety, the road to zero.
The Association for Cruise Tourism invites you to our final town hall with Alexander Gums, CEO of Port St. Martin, on Friday, April 25th at 6 p.m. at the Marriott Grand Cayman. Discover how cruise pairs drive economic growth and protect our marine environment from destructive anchoring. Refreshments will be served. All hands on deck. Don't miss it. Your vote, your future, your Cayman.
Shirts, pants, or linens. When you want them clean, just drop them off at Island Cleaners. Island Cleaners is a full-service dry cleaner, meaning you name it, they clean it. Professional shirt service, fluff and fold laundry, and more. Even drape and area rug cleaning and alterations, from quick hem jobs to resizing dresses. Island Cleaners, your one stop for everything clean. Artco Drive off Shedden Road. Ask about VIP and prepaid discounts.
When it comes to weekly meal prep, I trust Kirk Market to provide the best value for quality proteins. The butchers at Kirk Market are super helpful. They always slice my steaks perfectly. Kirk Market has everything I need for healthy and flavorful protein-packed meals. From lean cuts of CAB choice beef, tender CAB prime beef, the juiciest pork, and all-natural hormone-free poultry, to their seafood section with everything from fresh local snapper to omega-3 rich salmon. I choose Kirk Market for the highest quality proteins to support my healthy lifestyle. Kirk Market. Eat well, live well, and discover a world of choice.
With you in mind, we have your style. Find what you need down every aisle. You want saving, selection, and quality. That's why we're your home store. Home store. Thompson. The way to make a home. The way to make a home.
Across Cayman on FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority, committed to caring for you. The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, Matt, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM. Time in studios now 5:33 as we move into our prime time discussion with our guest returning to our studios for the second time, independent candidate for the constituency of Georgetown North. It is our pleasure for us to welcome again Miss Romelio. Welcome. Good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
A real pleasure to have you as our guest in studios, and looking forward to our primary subject of immigration reform. Again, some would say a difficult conversation. Others would admit and acknowledge a critical conversation when you look at Cayman and Caymanians' future in what the future Cayman will look like. So very grateful to have these discussions with you. But I trust you've been well. How is, we're on the last mile now. How is it looking for you in Georgetown? How's it feeling for you in Georgetown on the campaign trail?
Very excited and awesome. Things are going so awesome. Surprised to see that a lot of people are on board, and Miss Welcome, we need that change, and we're going to do that change.
Wonderful.
April 1st,
Wow.
God's willing.
Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of meetings, do you have any meetings left, or is it just door-to-door canvassing now for the remaining few days?
Well, I have tomorrow morning, God's willing, I am at Saltwater at the Galleria Plaza.
Okay.
I am there at 9 o'clock in the morning so I can meet with the people on the West Bay stretch. I have that set for tomorrow, God's willing. I am still trying to get a last location to have my final meeting.
All right. And that's at Saltwater Grill in Galleria Plaza. Yes. What time again?
9 a.m.
9 a.m. So if you're a constituent in Georgetown North, but certainly as Ms. Welcome said, the west side of Georgetown North, come out if you haven't had a chance yet to meet your candidate. A terrific opportunity to do so in person, learn a little bit about what her priorities will be, but also gives her an opportunity to learn what your priorities are. And certainly, as any good representative would tell you, that's also very, very important. So we thank you for that, and we hope the turnout is good. We were talking, before we get on to the substantive topic, we were discussing and praising you, frankly, for the efforts as it relates to dealing with trash in Georgetown North. We both saw a video, which I think it was on social media that we first saw it. Obviously, not only addressing the problem, proving to the public that the problem is real, but also showing proof, for lack of a better word, that, even when you call the authorities, nothing happens. And, people say, well, you say that, but did it really happen that way? They say a picture says 1,000 words, and very clearly, not even elected yet, but very much an activist in your community. We support the notion of, okay, we've had a $500 fine for illegal dumping for years, but no one has ever been ticketed. Would you be in support of reducing those fines to things like $25 and $50 so that at least small infractions can be ticketed?
Reduce? I'm looking to increase.
Oh, excuse me. All right. All right.
500 is outrageous. We have had 500 was for too many years. And the problem is that the little laws that we have are not being enforced. That is where the problem rises.
Yes.
But what I want to say about that is I understand from speaking to one officer that basically perhaps one of the reasons why it's not being done, not that it's a really good reason, but officers in terms of dealing with trash would end up having to take you back to the station and do a big write-up. And I think a lot of them don't want to get into the write-up. And again, like I said, that's really not an acceptable excuse. But understanding that that is what it is, I think a question I would ask you, one, do you support it being a ticketable offense like you have with your vehicles where, you know, somebody sees you throwing the trash, the police officer can just come and say, $200, $300, whatever. Do you support that?
Oh, sure. I mean, because at the end of the day, we're not getting our officers to do the job they're being paid for, to enforce what the little laws that we do have. So just like how the write a traffic ticket, it would be awesome if there was to write a littering ticket like that as well. Because I went to the station to try for them to charge this man for doing this, and the officer looked at me and told me, "Okay, Miss Welcome, now that we see everything," and he picked it up, we will go and warn him. I said, "Oh no." Oh, no.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So what actually happened? That's it? He was going to go warn him?
He was going to warn him. And I say, oh, no. I say, I'm always getting the story that, nobody don't want to come and give a statement. Here I am giving a statement. There's no evidence. Here I am with evidence.
Right.
Nobody don't want to go to court. Here I am willing to go to court to make a point. Because in far too long, we have had people littering in our communities and like as if it's nothing. And here we have the evidence on the video where the man stated it's not the first time he did
I saw that.
Like that.
Amazing.
And he is aware.
He definitely wins the award for honesty. Now, you got to give him that.
Yes, he does. And he also is aware that
that is not right.
It's not right, and it is a $500 fine. He knows this, but yet he chooses to do this.
Right. We got to get away with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I had to end up in calling texting the deputy commissioner and letting him know what was happening.
So what happened in the end?
And then they took my statement. So hopefully it goes off to DPP and we get it in court.
Very good.
Just keep our fingers crossed.
Keep our fingers crossed. But again, it wouldn't have happened unless your candidate for Georgetown North, identified it and decided to be the solution that we all, are looking for. Kudos to you, Ms. Romelia. I also on social media, not this week or early last week, I think. I'm trying to remember the timeline that I saw this. But you also picked up a rather sizable and significant endorsement. I'll let you tell our audiences who from, and then with your permission, I'd like to share it with the listening audience before we get into our substantive discussion.
Yes, Austin, that was from Miss Elite Soto. She's a true born Caymanian that have Cayman at heart. And it's amazing on this campaign trail that I'm finding people that feels the same way that I do about my island and the betterment of my island and for our people. So she was very awesome and very supportive of what she did. I thank her, Miss Elite Soto. I thank you a million times. We have people like you still exist in the Cayman Islands.
Absolutely. And for the benefit of the listening audience, obviously the endorsement comes from Mrs. Alita Soto, the sister of the late James Manoa Bodden, who is national hero in the Cayman Islands and whose image stands before the Parliament building downtown in Heroes Square. We're going to share that endorsement now and then, of course, continue on with our discussion with Georgetown North independent candidate, Miss Romelia. Welcome. Let's have a listen.
This is a serious time in history for the whole world. Our present representatives fail to realize how Cayman became a world leader in finance. It was the older generation of the 50s who had a vision what this country could be, worked tirelessly promoting Cayman, paved the way, brought Cayman from the islands time forgot to be a world leader in finance. What an achievement. These older people has been completely forgotten. It is time our representatives stop giving away to the wrong people what our older Caymanians should be getting in their golden years. There are many Caymanians who lack a decent place to live, water, electricity, and food on the table. Children going hungry and without an education. Wake up. These are the people who made this little dot on the map known to the world. They deserve better. In the early days when our visitors came to Cayman, it was the Caymanian mainly in the workforce. Today, they are unknown. The foreigners want to meet Caymanians. This is what kept them coming back. There is much work to be done. The country lacks revenue. There are many ways to do this and keep everyone happy. Caymanians are known to be the friendliest people on earth. We have welcomed over 150 nationalities here. Everyone gets along well. We have to maintain this. Everyone must live in harmony. All persons must be treated equal. Let's get back to real work. There is miles and miles still to go. We need a new revenue pillar so that for generations to come, our people will have work and income. Time is not on our side. It must be done now. It is not time to sleep at the wheel. We have to work together. It is time to pass the torch to a new generation of Caymanians who has helped our people. Miss Romelia, welcome, has done much to help the people of Georgetown North. She knows their needs, and when elected, I am sure she will be able to accomplish much more. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless these beloved islands we call home.
And there you have it. Endorsement, huge endorsement from Mrs. Alita Soto, endorsing Georgetown North Independent candidate Romelia. Welcome. Change is needed. Let's make that change is her campaign slogan. Miss Romelia, again, welcome and great to have you as our guest in studios. With trash to one side and obviously the myriad of national issues before us, one of those national issues and that national conversation that we hope to have perhaps once the next administration is chosen is the complicated conversation of immigration reform. And that spans a wide delta from work permits to permanent residence to status, naturalization, and everything down the line. And of course, the lowly Caymanian somewhere in the middle, now in the minority in our own country. What are your concerns when you think of the subject of immigration reform?
My concerns are that the Cayman population is growing too fast, and too many of our status have been given away. We have a lot that did not deserve status, and they have it. And the way that they went about giving these status, I mean, is unbelievable. We have people who have come to this island, done a lot for this island, who deserve to have status because they helped build this island, and they have a hard time of getting status. But they're quicker to give others who does not deserve it. It needs to be a halt. It needs to be looked into. And we have a lot of them that does have status are in our streets all day long selling drugs, and there's no penalty for it. I would like to see once someone with a status that holds their status commit a crime such as drugs or killing someone, that status can be taken, should be taken away and deported. Far too long, we have had people on corners selling drugs, and they have status. When you talk about it, we ask the police, why is it that they're not taking extra precautions with questioning or GE or DG, or the governor? Why is it that there's no consequences for these type of behavior for status holders? I'm getting feedback like, oh, they're entitled to family life. Well, if you're entitled to family life, go hold a job that brings in honest income and maintain your family. So that tells me they don't care about family life. That's just an excuse they're using when it coming on using family life. But okay, you want yes, you have an option. You and the family go back where you come from. But I refuse to sit here and see our island destroyed by status holders. You're welcome to be here. We welcome people here, but we're not welcoming your behavior and your culture. Our culture needs to be enforced, and our culture needs to be respected as a status holder. Pertaining to the work permits, that's another issue. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so huge.
So if I could just jump in there, Ms. Romelia, when you talk about the status again being taken away, so you're basically saying that you believe that somewhere perhaps there should be a category of offenses that would justify, the status being removed.
That is correct.
Yeah. And not that you're not suggesting otherwise, but you spoke mainly to sort of one category of persons, and I would like to state there's some up above that needs to be have some similar provisions as well, right? But either way, I'll leave you to continue the discussion on the permit side of it.
The permit side of it, there have been so many flaws, and there's no enforcement. Mm-hmm. You have people taking out permits for other people. The people are paying for their permits. They're being charged for the permits, and they have to turn around and pay a monthly fee to the permit holder.
Yep.
How is it that immigration is not picking up on things such as you have one person putting in for so much permit, and I know at one point in time you had to present a contract to show or to prove that you have sufficient work for these people. Mm-hmm. What happened to that? Did that way flying out through the door? On their forms, they have to do an accommodation form. That accommodation form, you have 50 people registered to that said location.
To one room.
To one room.
Yeah, I've heard this complaint.
Yeah.
And someone was saying, my goodness, couldn't you go in the database and search for that specific address and come to find out that there's about 50 people living in one room?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I mean, there's lots of areas that we can look at this and seek to do enforcement, because all it takes is enforcement. You have people who are putting in permit for people to do a job when you have Caymanians available to do the job. One thing that gets under my skin is to hear that Caymanians are lazy. Caymanians don't want to work. That is so far from the truth. Everywhere you go in the world, you find good and bad.
Right.
You understand? But at the end of the day, what I personally have found, what I personally has experienced, is there's a lot of discrimination in the workforce. They discriminate against Caymanians.
That's the ones I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Go ahead.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, the statistics as it relates to work permits bear you out. I think it was December 2024, the workforce and residency Cayman or work released work permit statistics showing that as of December 2024, there were some 37,909 active work permits across the board, from accountants to yoga instructors, the highest ever recorded. That figure was expected to increase even further by as much as 38,000 by March of this year. And what is troubling with that, to your point, is that not only is the proportion of foreign workers to Caymanian now has it exceeded the Caymanian population. There are 60-40, I think it is. 60% foreign workers in our labor force compared to 40% Caymanians. But to add insult to injury, overall employment stood at 2.8% overall, but unemployment specifically amongst Caymanians stood at 4.9%, with as much as 1,300 Caymanians out of work. And the question has to be asked, how is it possible to have record high work permit levels and still have Caymanian unemployment.
Exactly. I mean, it's amazing to see why they allow it to get that far, which as is back to caring politicians. If we had caring MPs, they would put a halt to it, because at the end of the day, my people need employment. Yes, we need outside workers, but my people come first. Let's sort this out. Let's find out why is it that Caymanians are not employed, even, and if is there a reason why they're not hired? Because like I was saying, I personally went through experience of such with the Ritz-Carlton. I was an awesome worker and was favored by the North Tower residents. And they didn't like that because I was a Caymanian. And they found out ways to get rid of me. We went to court, the court threw it out. We went to a tribunal with it. When we went to tribunal with it, they state, the secretary said, Ms. Welcome, not all the time the free spas and free dinners will work around here. You have a good case. I said, well, let's hope not. But evidently, the free spas and the free dinner worked. It did work. And it's the same with immigration, because when I spoke to someone on the immigration board and I says, well, they wanted to help me. And I says, well, how are you in position to help me? And when it's the same thing that works in immigration, they're being offered free spas and free dinners. He says, yes, that is true. But I mean, he said when he left the board before it was his turn. So you as a Caymanian, you're talking to me about this. You know it's happening, and you refuse to speak out at that said point in time. Why? You know it's happening. Why didn't you speak out against it? But the free spas and the free dinners in the upscale restaurant was awesome. And it's sad to see that our country is being sold out in this manner, and no one chooses to put a stop to it. No one. But by the grace of God, April 30th, God's will, once Romelia is elected, consequences will be held and will be put forth, and people will be held accountable. People will be held accountable for their actions. If there's a job availability, I wants to know why a Caymanian isn't hired for that position.
Well, speaking about the jobs, I brought a provision, I think in the immigration law. There's an amendment there for jobs for Caymanians only, which allows cabinet to be able to go ahead and select specific jobs for Caymanians only. Do you agree with that? Would you work to enforce it?
I've been asking that for what the old people
It's been there
say.
since 2013, but nobody's done anything.
Donkey years I've been asking. There are certain jobs in our tourism industry should be only Caymanians. Only Caymanians. You know what it is when they send to Africa or Romania or Nepal for a bellman? A bellman's post. Look at how many Caymanians around here. How much? I mean, I know that there needs to be trained, but and how to greet people. I mean, that's the least. But just to open the door and greet people, they can hire our own Caymanians. It stops. This is where it stops. Our people needs to come first. We need to have a level playing field. We need to make sure our own Caymanians are taken care of, and to see that they are able to live in their own country where our forefathers built to what it is right now.
All right. 745-2626 is the number. If you are a constituent of Georgetown North or just generally like what you're hearing from the Georgetown North independent candidate, we'd love to hear from you. I'm sure she would as well. Pick up the phone, give us a call, 745-2626, or you can use our WhatsApp line, 928-2562. And from there, you can either leave us a WhatsApp audio note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. Again, on immigration reform, there have been some proposals that we need to both moderate, if not put a cap on the number of status that we give out on an annual basis. Is that something that you support?
Definitely 100%.
Okay. All right. So immigration reform, top of the agenda for Miss Welcome, should she get elected. We do have a caller on the line. We have two callers on the line. Let's see if we can grab the first one. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for your call. Do you have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I want to say something to your guest and you are. Miss Romelio, you probably don't know who this is, but I want to say something to you. A video that I seen the other day, I'm glad. And more things like that needs to happen. And you and Austin, you know what you're all saying. You hit the nail on the head when it comes to how you go about dealing with this. Make it a ticket of full offense where they write a ticket and then you pay a fine. But there's foolishness, and I'm going to tell you, the reason why you see a lot of things are not going to the court, officers that we got nowadays is there for a salary. They do not want to do what they hired to do. And until when you change that in the law, that will continue. Things will go unnoticed, unchallenged, just because they're so lazy. Someone do want to fill out a report. They normally would tell you if it's an accident or something on the road, if it's possible that you and the party could agree to, something that they wouldn't have to write a report. I remember a few years ago, you all still on the line?
Yep, we're here.
Yeah, a few years ago, I had an issue where I got a ride with someone in accident. I left my key in the person's car. So, I got the people at the location where I was dropped off to pull up a CC footage, which was like a day or so after. And they got the license plate number. So I reached out to the RCIP to try to see if they could locate the person and ask the person to give me a call that I leave my key in the car. I wasn't asking for no information from the person pertaining about the person or nothing like that. They tell me in order for them to do that, if they go in the system to look up to see who this person is, they got
I apologize, caller. I hate to do this to you, but I have to go off to a break. I would encourage you to give us a call back. But keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk and Romelio Welcome coming.
Bobo.
The BBC is the world's most trusted news source.
And Bobo 103.1 is where you'll find the BBC World Service.
BBC News, the world news from the BBC.
And the home of Cayman's most listened to top shows.
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth.
And welcome to Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon.
Across Cayman.
On FM, online, and on your smart speaker. This is Bobo 103.1.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here. More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo 103.1, powered by Health Services Authority.
At Health Services Authority, they are committed to caring for you. They are Cayman's largest and longest standing healthcare provider, offering the most comprehensive range of inpatient, outpatient, and public health services at 9 different locations across all 3 islands.
Across Cayman on 103.1 FM, online, and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo 103.1.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. President Trump has said that Russia and Ukraine are very close to finalising a peace deal after what he called a good day of talks. President Zelensky earlier said discussions about giving up Ukrainian territory in exchange for a peace agreement might be possible, but only after a Russian ceasefire. Vitaly Shevchenko has more details.
Volodymyr Zelensky seemed to suggest the possibility of Ukraine discussing territorial concessions. He said full and unconditional ceasefire first, and then it'll open up a way for discussions of everything, including territorial issues. So all this pressure coming from Donald Trump's administration, and Donald Trump said in an interview published today that Crimea, an annexed Ukrainian region, will stay Russian.
The head of the World Health Organization has called for an immediate end to Israel's blockade of Gaza, where all stocks of UN food aid have now run out. There are reports of intense fighting on the ground in Gaza as Israel continues its military offensive. Sebastian Usher is in Jerusalem.
The military correspondent for Israel's national broadcaster has said the IDF is preparing to dramatically expand and intensify its activity in Gaza in light of the stalemate in moves to agree a deal with Hamas to release the remaining hostages. Israel is also continuing to impose a blockade on aid supplies into Gaza, which the World Food Programme says has brought the territory to a new breaking point. The head of UNRWA, the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Philippe Lazzarini, has condemned the blockade as man-made starvation.
A judge in the U.S. state of Wisconsin has appeared in court, charged with helping an undocumented migrant to evade arrest. The FBI accuses Hannah Duggan of obstructing federal agents. It says she intentionally misled officials attempting to detain a Mexican man last week. More from Gary O'Donoghue.
She appeared for her first hearing. The charges were outlined. They could mean up to 6 years in prison and $350,000 in fines, and essentially accused her of harbouring this migrant, letting him get away, and federal agents having to chase him down the street and capture him. So Hannah Duggan rejects that. She says she protests her arrest. She said it's not in the interests of public safety. And the Attorney General warning people like Judge Duggan, if you do this, we will come after you and we will prosecute you.
The former Republican Congressman George Santos has been sentenced to more than 7 years in prison for wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. The judge said Santos had been elected on the basis of his words, most of which turned out to be lies. World News from the BBC. The man accused of shooting dead the United Healthcare CEO, Brian Thompson, in New York last year, has pleaded not guilty to federal murder charges. Luigi Mangione was appearing in a Manhattan court. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty. Our North America correspondent, Neda Taufik, was at the courthouse.
Earlier this month, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, said she had directed prosecutors to seek the death penalty in this case. But the defense wants the judge to prevent the government from doing so, arguing that Pam Bondi's statements indelibly prejudiced the right of Mangione to a fair trial, while the judge told prosecutors to tell government officials and Ms. Bondi about the strict rules that govern public statements and how they could impact a fair trial.
The former Brazilian president, Fernando Collor de Mello, has been arrested after the Supreme Court upheld a 9-year sentence for corruption and money laundering charges. Collor de Mello was convicted of taking bribes from a construction company that was granted lucrative contracts with the state oil company Petrobras. He was Brazil's first president after democracy was restored in the late 1980s. The foreign ministers of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed an agreement in Washington to respect each other's sovereignty and come up with a draft peace deal within a week. Hundreds of thousands of civilians have been displaced in recent months as Rwandan-backed M23 rebels have seized swathes of mineral-rich territory in eastern Congo. One of England's finest Gothic cathedrals, York Minster, has hosted a heavy metal concert featuring the band Plague of Angels. The sold-out gig prompted controversy because some of the band members have worked with another group which used blasphemous imagery. BBC News.
The views and opinions Opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo 103.1.
And welcome back, man, to more Straight Talk here on Bobo 103.1 FM and simulcast live on YouTube, Instagram, and on 2 Facebook platforms, both our own Straight Talk radio show and the ACT Cruise Tourism Facebook page, all in an attempt to reach as wide as an audience as possible. The phone lines are open at 745-2626, or you can reach out to our version of the WhatsApp number, or our version of the 1-800 number, which is the WhatsApp line, 928-2562. From there, you can either send us a WhatsApp audio note or a traditional WhatsApp text message. Either way, we will read or play your comments and questions live on air. Certainly want to apologize to the caller prior to the break. We have certain hard stops that we just simply have no flexibility on, and the top of the hour break is one of those. But I encourage you, if you're there, we have 22 uninterrupted minutes in which now to work with. So if you want to call back and finish your train of thought, I know Miss Romelio would welcome it. Pardon the pun. She would invite you to call us back and share those thoughts. 745-2626 is the number. I see the caller calling back now. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, sir.
My apologies.
No problem, man. I understand you got to pay the bills.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
The floor is yours.
As I was saying before, when it comes to the situation, when it comes to trying to get information from police, they've literally almost make it like bulletproof there. If an officer tries to do something, they got to write a report. And that is good because that's being transparent, sir. And, you got the paper line. If you have no proof, you can't go to court. So, and they don't want to take that time out to say they got to write a report. So what they've been doing is trying to get me, you general public, agreed that we'll exchange numbers and stuff and go to our relevant insurance company and deal with that situation. That's one of the case. And then this all the issue now where she found this individual out dumping garbage. This happens all the while. I see individuals on the island drive around and put garbage on their car like they're coming up a neighborhood or something like that there. Mm-hmm. And apparently now, what they end up doing, it's, I don't know if they forget it or willfully just driving. If it drop off, they don't care. You find a lot of this happen on the bypass.
Right.
Few occasions I've seen, because I run the bypass on Newlands, and I see few occasions different cars stop one time, go and say, sir, a bag that just drop off your car, and you say, I go pick it up. And he wasn't in no hurry because he passed the turn off. He could have turned back, go back up to the spots area on the bypass, and he will pass that. So eventually he turned around and went back. When it comes to the part that you always talk about with the marijuana and all that, I'm a person, I would support legalizing it. And I do agree. Why would you want me to vote yes on something? To have a conversation? No, that conversation should have been dealt with before you will propose that as a referendum. Mm-hmm. And nothing nobody wants to do nowadays without understanding and knowing what they're voting for or what they're buying. Nobody does that. And as government leader, I gotta say shame on them for doing something like that. You understand? Because that bill that they would have tried pass with the marijuana would be so helpful to many people, especially when it comes to the CBC. And for one, if it's possible that they could have do it, I would have liked to be a farmer, because I like growing things. Mm-hmm. You understand? Yep. So when it comes to that, I would have probably agreed on it, but I can't do that in good conscience when I see things that they do behind closed doors that makes no sense, and you're saying that you're being transparent. I don't agree with that sort of behavior. When it comes to the cruise line, this is the first time that I've seen our leaders have gone out of the way, or whoever it is that inviting some of these sister islands throughout the Caribbean to come here and have our meetings and trying to bait the public. Listen to me, we only got one Cayman. We only got one shoreline. And if we don't get it right the first time, it's gone forever. Prime example, the issues that we have along the corridor West Bay. Lo and behold, as you always say, now around the 10-story building that they propose to do at West End, all of the skyline that we could have seen driving on West Bay Road are no longer there. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, it's not that Cayman haven't got it right and we need to build how to be proactive when it comes to building. We need to be mindful when you say that we're building for who? Because it isn't our people.
That's right.
This narrative that the politicians have been selling us for many decades, and I've always been a PPM from Linford, Pearson, Curtin, and that. I've always been a supporter of them. But unfortunately, they are our people, and they literally, I'm going to say this, I told Mr. Bryan I did not agree with him going parda. He said he wanted to get more done for Georgetown. He was doing quite fine by himself. I don't see why he needed to go join the parda. Mr. Joey and a bunch of them, they could have sailed the ship their way and make sure that it get into safe harbor. Without a doubt, it depends. The voting public have gotten promises over the years. And all of this that's happening, it happened on their watch. All of the politicians, I'm not talking about just PPM, I'm talking about every one of them have something to do with this. And a lot of them got added interest when it comes to dealing with this immigration problem. A lot of them have added interest into it because a lot of them some of them have business or they partners in business, whereas if they're not going to try to speak up, because if they try to trouble about the minimum wage and if they try to trouble about not hiring the foreigners and stay the Caymanians, then they go how to pay the Caymanians more and stay on a minimum wage. But at the end of the day, we all know every end of the year that comes, there are so many things that happens in this country. They're doing this, they're doing that, they're offering you this. Why didn't you offer me that and come up with all of these ideas? The last 3.25 years, why didn't you come up with all these ideas?
Quite right. Huh? Quite right.
No, Austin and Ellio, both of you all in there together one time ago, and you on the outside on the sidelines waiting for the game to start to see if they sub you all, so you all could get on play for the winning team. But at the end of the day, there's no team there. No, regardless if I vote for the person that I vote for and they don't get in, regardless of what the leader that's in is governing all of us. So anything that they do while in office, it will affect every one of us in our generation to come. Yes. So if they don't get this right, Austin, Ellio, we're in a sinking cesspool without a bottom. Because let me tell you something, cruise companies have been all over the world, and every way that they go, they try to set a monopoly where they are a 75% stake benefit, not the country. Not the countries. Don't make nobody trick you. I love cruise ship. I used to work with Mr. Atley and him on the tender, and I enjoy coming up to town and see all of the boats in because it's a livelihood for our people.
Right.
But then again, why is it that I'm doing the charters and all that, and I'm only taking 25% or 40%, while the cruise costs are taking away 75 or 60%? That don't make no sense. That really, that not selling for your people. You're not rallying for your people. Because I don't see why a cruise company is supposed to have that power where they could advocate, come and sit down and they're going to drop them. No. You're not drawing the numbers. This is what we are willing to offer you. And if you want to move on, a lot of people do this. At the cruise line, cannot go with an empty cruise ship if the people not buying to go to that destination. So all of this that they've been selling the people over the years, I now go and buy a ticket to go to Norway if I want to go to the Caribbean, just because that's the cruise that you have. I don't go buy it. You got to remember that, there's logic behind things, but they're coming like as if, you could tell them anything and they're going to believe it. No.
Carl, you said a mouthful. Let's see if we can get some commentary from Mr. Ellio, but thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your views with us. 16 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, Ms. Romelia, largely singing, from your hymn book when it comes down to trash, what is being done, but also on the wider employment issues. And we haven't asked your stance on Cruz, but if we have time, certainly we will today. But an opportunity for you to respond to some of the remarks of that caller.
He hit the nail straight on the head. He is actually singing in my choir. You understand? Because then at the end of the day, who is benefiting? And for the record, this is something that was brought to Deputy Premier Kenneth Bryan attention, We had meetings and we told him, why is the cruise ships allowed to sell out all of the tours, any amount of tours they want for hundreds of dollars per tour? Then they're going to find a tour guide and pay him chump change to carry out the tour. Then that tour guide, when he don't have enough vehicles, he going to pay another taxi driver or another tour guide more chump change, you understand, to do that tour. We are living on the privilege, you understand. So therefore, it should not be that the cruise people should not be allowed to sell out our tours. And when the time to come, a lot of our taxi drivers are leaving home, going out there expecting to make $1 to support themselves and their families. Sometimes they don't even make $1. With 4, 5, 6 ships in, everything is pre-booked out. Money is flourishing.
Sure.
Money is flourishing here in the Cayman Islands. But for who? Not for the Caymanians.
Well,
and this is where it stops.
Well, certainly we hope that if you are elected come April 30th, these are the types of conversations you will certainly seek to engage in. As I said at the start of the show, there are legitimate questions being asked, but all of those questions have no bearing on the question that is at hand. They're simply looking for guidance. Should we or should we not? If you say yes, then we start to have these finer detailed conversations in a more meaningful way. And frankly, I look forward to that for the umpteenth time we've had it, but hopefully we can see some progress one way or the other. Turning to WhatsApp, Ms. Romelia, very quickly, we have a question for you as well. Good afternoon, Austin Ellio, and welcome to Ms. Welcome. Thank you for the important discussion today. I would like to respectfully ask your guest the following. While she has spoken very well about the need for greater Caymanian participation in the workforce, in practical terms, how does she explain situations where businesses are having to recruit as far as Nepal, for example, for roles such as hotel doormen? Is it that Caymanians are unwilling to take these jobs, or are there deeper issues at play? And more importantly, how does she propose to meaningfully increase Caymanian participation without unintentionally harming businesses that already struggle to fill certain types of positions? Ms. Romelia, how would you respond to that listener?
First and foremost, the reason why we have Caymanians not in these posts is because, as I state from experience, they have been pushed out. They have been pushed out, and reason being, they don't want to have to pay the Caymanian a certain salary when they know they can pay that expat any amount of salary or what they feel like paying them, turn around and work them like a horse, get what they needs done. And the expat, they ain't displeased with it, because in back home where they're coming from, that the money is being sent back home, it works a whole lot where they're coming from. And just to clear that up a little more, I met a Filipino national working at a gas station, and me and him got into a conversation, and he said to me, Ms. Welcome, I am only here to work for 6 months. Once I am done with that 6 months work permit, I am going home and working. I'm going to be like, I'm not going to work. He said, I am going to live like a king. A beautiful upstairs house, a nice car, and funds for the rest of my life. So that tells me that it works a lot. They would do anything and accept anything to send back home to get what needs to be done back home and go home and live happily. So contrary to the Caymanian, we have bills to pay. We have our children we have to take care of, it's not feasible.
Right.
So that is the key in that, why they chooses to hire an expat, because in that expat is pleased with all whatever is given to them. When the Caymanians are not going to settle for it,
Right.
they will. But
So it's like wages, but also working conditions and the number of hours worked, etc.
Exactly.
They can abuse, frankly,
exactly.
a work permit holder, whereas a Caymanian, they
cannot.
wouldn't get away with it.
They would not get away with it. That's why they know the Caymanians would end up in labor board with the situation. And then they tends to frighten the expats and let them know, I got your work permit, so you have to do as I say. And you report me, you're gone. That kind of mentality and behavior is not Caymankind, and it needs to stop. And it will stop. It will stop. April 30th. Once Romelio welcome is in, it will stop.
Outstanding. 745-2626 is the number, or you can reach out to us on WhatsApp 928-2562, and either text us the message, send us an audio note, or whatever the case may be. But if you haven't had a chance to chat with independent candidate for Georgetown North, Miss Romelio, welcome. Well, she's our guest in studios. We've got another caller on the line. Let's go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Mr. Austin, Ellio, how you doing?
I'm very good, sir, and yourself. Thank you for your call. Do you have a question for our guest in studios?
Man, that's Iron Lady.
Yes, sir.
She don't joke. She sweep the floor clean.
She certainly does.
And knock every building down in front of her.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure she appreciates your endorsement.
But, man, she's serious. You know, I would like to see her in Parliament.
Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for.
I mean, I love Joey. I love Joey, but I would like to see her in there sometime in the future.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, caller. Appreciate your remarks. 745.
Thank you.
2626 is the number. Again, the Iron Lady, they're calling you. I'll take that as a compliment.
It is because at the end of the day, people have seen what I've done. I'm a go-getter. I like to get things done. I like to see that my people get what's deserved to them. And I'm a straight shooter.
Yes.
This needs to be done. My people need this, and this is what's going to get done.
Outstanding. Well, we do certainly appreciate it. Obviously, your position as it relates to immigration reform is more needs to be done, not only from the work permit side, but the PR side. And as you stated earlier on, you are supportive of putting a cap as it relates to status as well.
Definitely.
To create greater opportunity. We do have a comment again from WhatsApp. Let's, this time an audio note. Let's hear it. I don't hear anything. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this might be the reason.
Just say that
let's start it over.
Good evening, gentlemen and guests. I just got one question that I can't seem to get an answer to, or a straight answer to. Just say that the referendum come back yes on the port payer question, right? Just hypothetically speaking, just thinking ahead. I know you don't want us. They don't want you to think ahead. They just want you to stick to the question, right? But just suppose, because they got the rights to do something, if it come back yes, or don't do nothing at all, right? Because it's a non-binding thing. But I think it can be, if they come back yes, they're gonna prioritize it and use the port and go forward with doing something on that, right? Okay, that's it. I want to know if the questions that has to be asked after that during the process of billing this payer, right? The business plan and stuff, right? When Parliament come up with a business plan, they get all the bureaucrats and all the professionals and thing, and they come up with a business plan, right? So what they gonna do now? They gonna decide. 19 of them outside, they're gonna decide if this is the business plan that they're gonna go with, the one that they come up with, or they're gonna come back with a referendum and ask the people. That is the question I want, because if 19 of them gonna decide say, well, okay, this is the plan that we're going with, and we vote yes in the House, and the people are going to say about it. So I want to know if they're going to come back. No, after they come up with a business plan, after the questions are asked and everything, and they come up with a business plan, if they're going to come back to the people and ask them, or 19 of them in the House just got the rights to vote on it in the Parliament and decide what to do. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that question. And certainly I don't know if our guests can touch that, but what I can say is this to answer that. What we've heard so far from the government, and using the Honorable Deputy Premier, the Minister of Tourism, what he has said simply is the government is looking for a steer. Should we develop cruise infrastructure or not? If the answer comes back as a yes, then the conversations will start taking place about where to build, when to build, how much is it going to cost, what that business plan. As far as the business plan is concerned, I would think the Ministry of Tourism, from a political standpoint, would develop the outline business case and then the strategic business case. They will have to bring that to Parliament for discussion. But like any other bill that goes before the House, there is what's called a 28-day public consultation period. So all of those things, like every other issue that we talk about in this country, whether it goes to Parliament or not, it will go back in the public domain for consultation. And if we remember anything about this cruise discussion that we've had for 20 years, is that there will be lots of public consultation. Not being able to speak for the next incoming government, but if history remains the same, that is the likely outcome. 27 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. We're running short on time. Mr. Ellio, I want to give you the floor to remind the public about your upcoming meetings, where you're going to be, and an opportunity for some closing and or final remarks. You have about 2 minutes exactly. Well, maybe a minute and a half.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank you guys for having me on this show again. And just a reminder once again that I will be tomorrow, God's willing, at Saltwater Grill. That's in Galleria Plaza at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we can do some coffee and have some chatting going on, so you can get to know your candidate. Now, I also would like to use this opportunity to reach out to Georgetown North and trying to get them to understand, especially the Georgetown part of Georgetown North, why is it important to make a change? Why is it important to make me your candidate? For years, you have been living in the same deplorable conditions.
Regrettably, Ms. Welcome, I have to cut it short because we're...
The home of the BBC World Service, the most trusted news source in the world. This is Bobo 103.1. The following commercial messages are brought to you exclusively by Stingray Media.
If you care about your car's performance and fuel economy, you'll want to fill up with Pure 93 at Rubis. Pure 93 is the highest pure octane fuel in Cayman and will protect against engine knock, restore its power, keep your engine clean, and will even reduce maintenance expenses while meeting international performance requirements for your car. Come fuel the difference with Pure 93. Exclusively available at Rubis service stations.
What's that? No sugar, same amazing taste? Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is here to stay. No one can stop me when I taste the beer. Classic taste, pure satisfaction. Be sure to stop into any Tortuga location and get your own case of Coke Zero. Or grab an ice cold one straight from the cooler. Brought to you by Tortuga Distributors Limited. Coca-Cola, taste the feeling, Cayman.
Do you have a healthcare question but not sure who to ask? Contact HSA's Patient Call Center to speak to one of our experienced clinical team members. We are here to answer your questions and help guide you through your healthcare journey. Need to make an appointment? Our team can help. Contact HSA at 949-8600 or email info@hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Visit Healthcare Pharmacy's second location in Governor Square, servicing West Bay and the 7 Mile Beach Corridor with a care and professionalism you have come to expect from Healthcare Pharmacy. Healthcare Pharmacy in Governor Square also stocks a huge selection of Hallmark and shoebox greeting cards, vitamins, sunblock, last minute, and everyday needs. To refill and transfer your prescriptions, simply WhatsApp 329-7313 or visit healthcarepharmacy.ky or drop by Monday to Saturday from 9 till 6.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.